At my engagement party, my fiancé, ex crashed in, held up ultrasounds, and said I'm 4 months pregnant with his baby. Everyone went silent. He turned white, then admitted, I still love her in front of 75 guests. Now he's begging me. I ruined everything for nothing. I was standing under the strings of warm Edison bulbs my mom had hung across the backyard in Mesa, Arizona, holding a champagne flute I hadn't even tasted yet, when her voice cut through the laughter like a blade. I'm 4 months pregnant with his baby. Everything stopped. Music, conversations. Even the breeze seemed to lock up. 75 people, my parents, his parents, cousins, coworkers, friends from college, turned toward the woman standing at the edge of the patio like she'd been dropped there by some cruel god. She held an envelope of ultrasound photos in one hand, her phone in the other. My fiancé, Michael, stood beside me. I felt him go rigid first, then watched the blood drain from his face. He didn't move, didn't speak. Just stared at her like a ghost had crawled out of his past and wasn't planning on leaving. Her name was Lauren. I recognized her from a single picture I'd seen on Michael's old Instagram years ago, his ex from before we met. I'd been told they ended things cleanly, that they were in different places. I never questioned it. I'd never had a reason to. But now she stepped forward, heels clicking against the stone, holding those ultrasound pictures out toward the crowd as if she were presenting evidence at a trial. They're his, she said. Look. My mom gasped when she saw the name printed in the corner, Michael H., my fiancé's full name. Clear as day. She didn't hand them to me, she handed them to his mother, who took them with a trembling hand, eyes widening. Then Lauren lifted her phone. And here are the messages you might want to see. She started scrolling through what looked like weeks, maybe months of conversations. His promises. Their planning. Lines about a house in Chandler. About our baby. About once she and I are settled again. I felt the earth tilt beneath me. My throat went dry. The room or the yard, the people, the lights felt too bright, too exposed. Then she looked directly at me. Her face was smooth, almost calm, dead calm. He proposed to you because I told him I wasn't ready for marriage yet, but now I am. She turned to him. So what's it gonna be, Michael? I expected him to deny it, to call her crazy. To grab my hand and say something, anything that made sense. But Michael broke. Completely. His face crumpled and he started sobbing, shoulders shaking like he'd been holding something inside for way too long. He didn't even look at me when he said it. I'm sorry, I made a mistake, I still love her. The sound that left my body didn't feel human. My dad lunged toward him, shouting, but my brothers grabbed him before he reached Michael. Guests backed away like the scene might explode into something physical. Maybe it already had. I didn't say anything. I remember that clearly. I didn't scream or cry or ask why. I just stood there, every muscle locked, watching the life I thought I was about to build collapse in a single sentence. A single breath. Lauren rested her hand on her stomach like she was emphasizing a point. Michael reached for her, and when she let him, something inside me snapped in a way I felt down to my bones. 3 weeks later, after silence, after avoiding people in grocery stores, after waking up every night replaying that moment, my phone lit up with his number. His voice was broken, frantic. I ruined everything for nothing. Please take me back. I didn't answer him then, but this is the story of what I did next. People kept telling me I was handling it really well, but the truth was I wasn't handling anything. I was floating, hollow. I moved through those first weeks like someone had scooped me out and left just enough of me behind to go to work and say, I'm okay, when absolutely nothing was okay. I met Michael 3 years earlier at a brunch spot in Tempe, crowded with hungover ASU students and middle-aged couples trying to fix their Saturdays. He was a server then, finishing his engineering degree. I thought his smile looked warm, like something you could trust. I didn't know yet how dangerous it is to mistake warmth for safety. We built fast, too fast maybe. I'd just come off a breakup that gutted me, and he made me feel chosen in a way I hadn't felt in years. He called me my person before month 4, told me he'd never felt this certain about anyone. I believed him because I wanted to, because the alternative, that I was stepping into something unstable, never crossed my mind. The first crack came the night I found a notification from Lauren on his phone about a year into our relationship. Nothing dramatic, just a heart reaction to a picture he posted of us at Canyon Lake. When I asked, he brushed it off. "She's an ex, it's nothing." We ended on good terms. I remember feeling embarrassed for even asking, like I'd been insecure enough to give him a reason not to trust me. He kissed my forehead, told me I was overthinking. I let it go. The second crack wasn't even a moment. It was a shift, subtle, almost unnoticeable. He started working later, studying earlier, keeping his phone face down. I told myself it was normal. We were adults with jobs and responsibilities. Life gets busy, but something in me felt it, the quiet tightening in his behavior, like he was bracing for something he wasn't ready to admit. Once, about 6 months before our engagement, I woke up at 2 a.m. to find him in the living room, staring at his phone like he was reading something he didn't want me to see. When he noticed me, he shoved it under a pillow, smiling too quickly. "Couldn't sleep," he said. "Just scrolling." I didn't push. I didn't want to be the girlfriend who snooped or accused. I thought trust meant giving someone space. Now I know trust also means paying attention when the space becomes distance. The third crack, though I didn't recognize it then, was the night he proposed. It was beautiful, planned, intentional. The kind of proposal people replay in slow motion in their heads. But looking back now, something in his eyes looked strained. Not regret, not doubt, something heavier. A weight he was trying to bury beneath the excitement. My mom cried. His dad opened a bottle of whiskey he'd been saving, and Michael held me like he was afraid to let go, whispering, "I love you. I'm yours." But now I think he wasn't claiming me. He was trying to convince himself of something he already knew wasn't true. When Lauren showed up at our engagement party, the shock wasn't just shock. It was recognition. All those cracks I'd ignored snapping into a clean, devastating line. 3 weeks after the party, when he called crying, saying, "I ruined everything for nothing," all I could hear in his voice was the same tremble I'd heard at 2 a.m., staring at a phone he hid under a pillow. But what he didn't know, what I hadn't told anyone yet, was that something new had just appeared in my life. Something she didn't know about. Something he didn't know about. And it changed everything. The something new didn't come with fireworks. It came quietly, slipped into my life the same way numbness had, except this time it didn't hollow me out. It sharpened me. 3 days after Michael's meltdown call, I opened my inbox and found an email from Lauren. Subject: "You deserved the truth before I walked in." The rest was short, almost clipped, like she'd typed it fast. "You should know things aren't what he told you. He wasn't leaving you for me. He was stringing us both along. He told me he'd end things once he got through the engagement party. He said he needed to ease you down gently. Believe what you want, but he lied to both of us." I read it twice, then a third time. I didn't respond, but something inside me shifted. Not out of sympathy for her. I didn't owe her that, not after what she did, but because confirmation of his double life didn't break me the way I expected. It focused me. For the first time since the party, the fog lifted. I started seeing timelines, patterns, motives, and beneath all of it, the realization that everyone thought I'd disappear quietly. That I was supposed to lick my wounds and move on, grateful the trash took itself out. Instead, I felt a slow, burning clarity settle in my chest. I stopped answering his calls, stopped opening messages from people who wanted updates because they were worried. I deleted social media for a while so I wouldn't see people's takes, the whispered commentary, the pitying likes on my last engagement post. Instead, I built myself a routine carved out of survival and spite. I worked extra shifts at the clinic. I cleaned my entire apartment twice over. I started running again, long loops around Papago Park, pushing myself until my lungs felt raw and my legs trembled. I needed the pain, something controllable, something mine. I thought the distance would make him fade. But Michael didn't fade, he escalated. He showed up at my work one afternoon, eyes swollen, voice shaking. "Please," he begged outside the employee entrance, "just hear me out." My manager had to step outside and block him from coming in. People stared. I felt humiliation crawl under my skin, but it didn't crush me this time. It lit another match. That night he sent a long text. When I didn't respond to, she lied. She trapped me. The baby might not even be mine. I panicked. I didn't choose her. I just broke. Please give me a chance to make this right. 2 days later came another message. I'll fight for you. I don't care what she says. And then, I messed up, but you're the one I want. Every message was proof of something I hadn't let myself name yet. He wasn't sorry for hurting me. He was sorry his fantasy collapsed in public. He wanted comfort, not accountability. He wanted someone to stand between him and the consequences he'd built with his own hands. But the real shift, the true beginning of the person I became next, happened when I ran into his older sister at Fry's. She hugged me before I could pull back. I'm so sorry, honey. But you know he didn't just cheat, right? My stomach tightened. What do you mean? She looked around like someone might overhear. He told Lauren you two were basically done, told her you were clingy. Told her you begged him to propose because you were afraid he'd leave. He made you sound pathetic. The humiliation from the engagement party had been public. But this was private, targeted, meant to rot me from the inside. And that's when the anger crystallized into something cold, deliberate, and dangerously clear. I wasn't going to disappear. I wasn't going to forgive. I was going to dismantle him, quietly, precisely, and make sure he understood exactly what it felt like to have the ground ripped out from under him. And the opportunity for that, it arrived sooner than I expected. The opportunity arrived on a Monday morning when my phone buzzed with a number I didn't recognize. I almost ignored it, but something, instinct, maybe, told me to pick up. Is this Des? A woman asked. Her voice was calm, professional, but edged with something tighter. Yes, who's calling? This is Claire, I'm Lauren's sister. I didn't breathe, not until she continued. I'm not calling to defend her. I'm calling because something's happening, and you need to know before anyone else does. She took a breath. Lauren lost the pregnancy. The words hit like a dull, confusing blow. Not because I felt grief for her, I didn't, but because of everything that loss represented. The timeline, the chaos, the public spectacle, the weapon she'd wielded like a grenade. She had a complication, Claire continued quietly. It wasn't anyone's fault, but she's not handling it well, and she's blaming Michael, fully, unfairly. My stomach tightened. Why are you telling me this? Because she said something to me last night that frightened me. She said she wasn't done with him, that she'd take everything from him before she let him walk away again. Claire paused, and then she said your name, that she wanted to finish what she started. A cold ripple went through me. She's unstable, Claire said. And Michael's phone is blowing up because she's threatening to tell him something that will destroy his life. He won't tell us what it is, but whatever it is, it's bad. I leaned against my kitchen counter, gripping the edge with both hands. But that's not even the reason I called, she said. I felt something in me brace. She was never 4 months pregnant. Silence expanded between us, thick and suffocating. What? My voice came out thin. She was pregnant. That part was real, but not 4 months, more like 6, maybe 7 weeks. She lied because she knew he wouldn't walk away from a baby, and she was right, he came running. She planned the timing. She planned the confrontation. She waited for your engagement party so the humiliation wouldn't just hit him, it would hit you. I felt my throat close. Why would she do that? Because she's been obsessed with him for years, Claire whispered. Obsessed in a way we didn't understand until this happened, but that's not the worst part. I closed my eyes. Please just tell me. The baby might not have been his, and she knew that too. The room tilted. This wasn't a betrayal anymore. It wasn't even a love triangle. It was a constructed disaster, one engineered by someone who wanted to burn us both alive just to see which of us collapsed first. Lauren targeted you, Claire said. You were never collateral damage. You were the point, my breath caught. Why me? Because you got the life she deserved. That's what she told our mother. She wanted to ruin your reputation, your confidence, your future marriage. And she wanted Michael back under her control. My hands began to shake, not from fear, but from comprehension. Everything that had happened at the engagement party was staged. Every detail, every revelation, even the timing. Des, Claire said gently, I'm telling you this because you're the only person who can stop what's about to happen. She's about to go public. Like TikTok public. She wants to drag your name through hell to finish the story. My heartbeat thudded in my ears. And Michael? I asked. Claire hesitated. He's already unraveling. He thinks you're the only person who can keep him from losing everything. His job, his reputation, his sanity. I closed my eyes, feeling the twist of it, how the narrative had flipped, how the victim and the villain had suddenly swapped masks. Lauren wasn't the bomb, she was the fuse. And Michael was the one standing in the flames, too blinded by guilt and obsession to see what was coming for him. But I saw it clearly, and I knew exactly how to use it. Claire's call didn't just give me information, it gave me direction. For the first time since the engagement party, my emotions didn't feel like loose wires sparking everywhere. They clicked into place, forming something controlled. Something strategic. If Lauren was about to go public, she needed an audience, and if Michael was about to implode, he needed an anchor. Both of them wanted something from me. That was their mistake. I spent the next 48 hours studying everything, every message Michael had sent me, every screenshot I still had, every detail of Claire's warning. I wasn't looking for comfort. I was looking for leverage. And leverage is always hidden in the quiet parts people assume you won't examine. Michael's job was one of those parts. He worked for a defense contractor in Phoenix, strict security protocols, NDA, the works. They monitored employee conduct because it reflected on project integrity. His breakdown at my workplace, the public fiasco at our engagement party, the possibility of him being connected to an online scandal that wasn't just embarrassing. It was reportable, but I wasn't interested in destroying his job. Not yet. What I wanted was precision. A kind of revenge that didn't just hurt, it enlightened. That forced him to face what he'd done the way I'd had to face what he did to me. Publicly, irrevocably, and without warning. But before I could do anything, I needed distance, control, and an ethical line I wasn't willing to cross. That line was simple. I wouldn't lie, I would expose. And I would let the truth carve him open. The first step was securing proof. I emailed Claire. If you have anything that shows she knowingly lied about the pregnancy timeline, I need it. Not to help him, he made his choices. This is for me. Within an hour, she sent me screenshots of Lauren's messages to her best friend. Messages timestamped just 1 week before the engagement party. He thinks I'm 4 months. He'll panic. He always panics. Once he leaves her, I'll tell him the real date. I want her to see what it feels like to lose everything. She acts like she's above me. Watch how fast she falls. Reading them didn't hurt. It clarified. Now all I needed was Michael. I didn't reach out. I didn't answer his calls. I didn't respond to the long, spiraling paragraph he sent late that night. I don't know who I am anymore. I'm scared. Please, Des, I need you. I don't want to lose my job. I don't want my family to hate me. I don't want her to ruin all of this. I'm begging you. It was the desperation I'd expected, but not the accountability. He still framed himself as the victim of Lauren's manipulation, never once acknowledging he'd created the scenario she weaponized. I waited until the next morning. Then I texted him, "Meet me at the yard in Tempe. Noon, don't be late." He responded instantly, "I'll be there. Thank you, thank you." But this meeting wasn't for reconciliation, it was reconnaissance. And there was something I needed to know before making my next move. A truth that would determine whether my revenge would be surgical or catastrophic. When he walked into the restaurant, eyes hollow, hair unwashed, shoulders slumped like a man carrying a coffin, he looked nothing like the person who shattered my life. He looked weak, uncertain, terrified. Good, I let him talk, let him sob, let him explain how Lauren had tricked him, how he didn't think, how he never meant to hurt me. But then I asked the question I'd waited days to ask. Did you ever actually plan to leave me before the engagement party? His hand froze on his napkin, and the answer he gave me changed everything. Not because it hurt, but because it confirmed exactly what kind of revenge he deserved. He didn't answer right away. His jaw clenched, his eyes darting, not with guilt, but with calculation. Like he was deciding which version of the truth would cost him the least. "Michael," I said quietly, "did you plan to leave me?" He exhaled shakily, looking down at his hands. I didn't know what I was going to do." "Stop," I said. Tell me the truth. His next breath came ragged, like he was peeling something off his skin. Then he finally looked up at me, eyes red and wet. I wasn't going to leave you, he whispered. Not yet. Not yet. I just needed time. I needed her to calm down. I needed the baby to be born first. He swallowed hard. I figured you and I would get married, and then, later, when things settled, I'd figure out how to transition out. I felt nothing at first. No shock, no grief, just a cold, spreading numbness. Transition out, I repeated. He nodded miserably. I didn't want to hurt you, I really didn't, but I couldn't handle two lives changing at once. I thought after the wedding I'd slowly pull away. 2 lives, 2 women, 2 futures. And I was the one he intended to discard after I helped him survive the crisis he'd created. But that wasn't even the twist. The twist came next. Michael wiped his face and leaned forward like he needed me to understand something crucial. But you have to know, she was never the one I loved. You were, she had leverage, and she knew how to use it. That part I already knew. But then he kept talking, his voice trembling as the pieces began to fall out. She told me if I didn't choose her at the party, she'd expose something that would destroy my career, something you never forgive. My stomach tightened. What could she possibly? He cut me off, voice breaking. Des, she has screenshots from before we met. Stuff I said about you, stuff I said about using you. The air around me shifted, my pulse slowed. What kind of stuff? He dragged a shaking hand through his hair. Back then, before we were together, I was still hooking up with Lauren sometimes. She asked why I kept talking to you, so I told her what she wanted to hear. He looked at me then, and the shame on his face wasn't enough to soften the blow. I told her I was only entertaining you because you were stable, that you had a good job, that you'd make things easier while I finished school, that you were safe. The numbness inside me cracked, sharply, precisely, and something hot surged through the opening. And you think, I said slowly, that telling me this now makes you look better? No, he whispered. I'm telling you because she's threatening to leak everything, and if she does, I'll lose my clearance, my career, my reputation. Everything? The restaurant noise faded behind the roar in my ears. He hadn't just betrayed me. He hadn't just cheated. He had chosen me as a backup plan, and Lauren had known from the beginning. She hadn't just ambushed me out of jealousy. She ambushed me because he built that entire relationship on lies he told to both of us. And then the final twist landed, quiet but devastating. She's telling people now that you knew, he said, that the engagement was just for show. She's saying you were in on everything. My breath caught. She's painting you as the other woman, Des. And she's building a whole narrative online. Not only had he used me, not only had he lied to my face for years, but now the woman who detonated my life was weaponizing his past words to make me look like the villain. Michael leaned forward, desperate. I need your help, please. You're the only person who can save me. And in that moment, the shape of my revenge sharpened into perfect clarity. I wasn't going to save him. I was going to let him hand me the knife. What he said at that table didn't just explain his betrayal, it explained him. Every choice, every lie, every crack I ignored, but I still didn't understand the why, not fully, not the root. So I asked him, why did you do it, Michael? Why me? Why her? Why all of this? He stared at me like the question itself hurt. Then he let out a quiet, broken laugh that didn't sound like guilt. It sounded like resignation. You really want the truth? Yes, I said. Finally. He leaned back in his chair, eyes hollow, shoulders slumped with a kind of exhaustion that wasn't physical, it was moral. Because I never thought you'd leave. The words dropped between us like lead. He kept going. You were predictable, you were steady. I knew you'd forgive things, I knew you'd give me chances. I knew you, fight for us even when I didn't deserve it. He looked away, jaw tight. With Lauren everything was chaos. She pushed, she questioned, she demanded, but you were simple. Simple. He said it like it was a compliment. Like it was a resource he had mined. You were the safe one, he whispered. The backup plan if everything else fell apart. The person who'd stay even when I screwed up. I counted on that. The nausea hit me slow, crawling up my throat. You built a life with me because you thought I wouldn't leave you. He nodded, eyes glistening. You were reliable, you cared too much, you wanted things to work. I knew no matter what happened with her, I'd still have you. I felt my spine stiffen. So you loved the way I loved you, I said quietly. Not me. He didn't argue. And that silence, his lack of denial, was worse than any confession, but he wasn't done. There's more, he said, voice cracking. Do you know why I proposed when I did? I stared at him coldly. Let me guess, stability, optics, timing. He shook his head. No, I proposed because she told me she was done with me. She said she was moving on, and I panicked. I didn't want to be alone. I needed something permanent. Someone permanent. Someone who wouldn't leave. Someone he could count on. Someone who didn't realize they were being chosen for their tolerance, not their worth. So I proposed to lock you in, he said quietly. Because you were the only guarantee in my life. Guarantee. He saw me not as a partner, but as insurance. And when he realized he'd lost both of us, his world didn't collapse because he hurt me. It collapsed because he lost the structure that held his ego together. Lauren fed his chaos. I fed his stability. Losing her made him panic. Losing me made him desperate. He needed both of us for different reasons, and he ended up with neither. But it was the final thing he said, his true, unfiltered logic, that sealed what I was about to do next. I didn't mean to ruin your life, he whispered. I just didn't think you'd matter this much in the end. I thought you'd rebound, move on. Forget me, he shook his head. I didn't think you were strong enough to make this into something bigger. He didn't think I was strong enough. He thought I would shrink, fade, disappear. And now he was sitting across from me begging for salvation, completely blind to the fact that he'd just handed me his motives, his vulnerabilities, and the moral justification for what came next. I stood, grabbed my purse, and looked him dead in the eyes. Thank you, I said. For what? He whispered. For telling me exactly who you are. Because now I knew precisely how to end this, and I knew exactly where to strike. I didn't go home after that meeting. I drove straight to my sister's house in Gilbert, parked in her driveway, and sat there until the engine ticked itself quiet. I wasn't crying. I wasn't shaking. The calm that settled over me was the kind that comes when the storm has already hit, and you're standing in the wreckage realizing you lived. I took out my phone and opened a new document. Then I began assembling everything. Not lies. Not embellishments, just the truth, every receipt, every timestamp, every message, every detail Lauren fabricated and every detail Michael confessed. When I finished, it was 11 pages long. My goal wasn't to humiliate him the way he humiliated me. Humiliation was shallow, temporary. My goal was to make sure he could never again shape a narrative where I was the desperate one, the backup option, the simple woman who would stay no matter what. I wanted him to understand that the person he underestimated was the person who would walk him straight into the consequences he thought he'd evaded. So I sent the document to 3 places. HR at his defense contracting firm, with a short note explaining that an ex-employee, me, had been publicly dragged into a scandal involving one of their engineers, and that he had admitted to emotional manipulation, instability, and being blackmailed by an outside party with sensitive personal information. Everything I wrote was factual, nothing speculative. I simply stated that, for my own safety and to prevent further escalation, I felt they needed to be aware of his compromised state. His family group chat, including his sister who had been decent to me, I didn't include commentary, just the screenshots, the timeline, the pieces he hid from them, and finally to Lauren with a single line. Here is the truth you didn't know. Spin this however you want. It still ends the same way. I didn't post it online. I didn't make a TikTok. I didn't need to. These things have a way of leaking themselves, especially when a family is already cracking and a company is already watching. The fallout started within 24 hours. Michael called me 6 times in a row, his voice escalating from pleading to panic to furious. What did you do? HR wants to talk to me. What did you say? Why would you send that to my parents? Des, please, I'm begging you, they've suspended my clearance, please, please, just tell them it's a misunderstanding. But I didn't answer. I didn't need to. 2 days later, his sister texted me, they know everything now. He finally admitted it. Our parents are devastated. Lauren's spiraling online. Stay away from both of them. By the end of the week, he'd been put on administrative leave, while the company conducted a behavioral and integrity review. The kind that follows you for the rest of your career. The kind that shuts certain doors forever. I didn't celebrate. I didn't feel joy. What I felt was release, the slow, steady kind that seeps in once you finally put something heavy down after carrying it too far. The final blow came quietly. He left a voicemail at 2:14 a.m., voice hoarse and defeated. "I thought you'd always be there," he said. "I thought you needed me more than I needed you. I was wrong. You're stronger than I ever understood, and I hate that I'm realizing it too late." For the first time since the engagement party, I slept through the night. In the weeks that followed, the noise died down. People moved on. His family stopped reaching out. Lauren disappeared off social media after a few cryptic posts that got little traction. And Michael, well, he faded into the background of my life, the way ghosts do when you stop feeding them. 1 month later, I walked alone along the Salt River at sunset, the sky a washed-out gold, and realized I didn't want him punished. I wanted him irrelevant. And he was. For the first time in a long time, breathing didn't hurt. I ended the night by deleting his final voicemail. Not out of anger, but because I didn't need a reminder of a man who mistook my loyalty for weakness. Let him rebuild or crumble. That part was never mine to control. My part was done, and the last thought I had as I walked back to my car was the simplest and truest thing I'd felt in months. He underestimated the wrong woman.